Hello, this is Patrick Daly and welcome to Interlinks. Interlinks is a programme about globalisation and the effects it has had on Ireland and other countries around the world over the last 50 years or so. In each programme, we interview a person from another country or with strong connections to another country to get their unique perspective on globalisation as it has affected them, the country they live in, and its relationship to the wider world. There's a little bit of history, a dash of economics, a sprinkling of business, and an overlay of personal experience, both from me and from my interviewees from around the world. Today, we're heading back across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas, more precisely into the tropical regions of Central America, where a string of small countries occupy a long, thin strip of land that connects the North American and South American continents. We're headed to Panama, a country that is geographically very strategically positioned, controlling as it does the Panama Canal that connects the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. Panama is one of the most developed and fast-growing economies in the region and is a crucial transport and logistics hub on a global scale. Joining us from Panama will be Louis O'Connor, a South Dublin local, like myself, who's a businessman and investor. He's been living in Panama for many years with his Panamanian wife and family. Louis has a long history in business overseas, going back over 30 years, with stints in Germany, the US, as well as Panama and here at home in Ireland. Currently, he's working on a number of exciting investment initiatives in precision agriculture related to the production of strawberries, aloe vera and other produce. So I'm delighted to have Louis join us on the line to talk about his experiences and reflections on doing business internationally and to get his perspective on the future opportunities and challenges that are visible from his point of view in Panama. Welcome, Louis, and thanks very much for being here with us today.
Yes, hello, Patrick. Good morning. Morning time here, so happy to be here.
Yeah, delighted to have you. Listen, we hear about Panama, but I think a lot of people here are probably slightly hazy on where exactly it is. Could you kind of just explain to us where in the world is Panama and what's it like in terms of its climate, its economy, people, culture and so on?
Okay, yeah. I was a bit fuzzy myself when I was first offered an opportunity to come here. I had an idea what direction it was, all right. But so yeah, Panama's in Central America, and it's an isthmus, which is the country sort of runs east to west, and it's sort of quite thin. So on our right hand side we have Colombia, or on the eastern side we border with Colombia, and on the west we have Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure everybody's heard of the Panama Canal. So we have a tropical climate and also sort of a subtropical with some highland areas as well where it's cooler. It'd be similar to Ireland, in fact. There's about a little over 4 million people. Capital city, Panama City, has about 1 million. Spanish, Latin culture, agriculture, tourism, banking would be big sectors. It really is, as you sort of mentioned, because of the canal, a gateway to the Americas, and becoming more and more so. Even though we have the canal, we now have, this year actually, Panama enters the air cargo business with a brand new terminal opening up. So We've like 6 flights direct from China every week. We've flights from Istanbul, Dubai. So it's become, it is the hub of the Americas, but it's becoming more and more so.
Yeah, it's a global logistics hub. I guess combining the air freight with the sea freight, and I guess the Pan American highway must run through Panama as well, does it?
Exactly. Yeah. It actually ends in Panama at the moment. You could drive from Panama to Alaska, all the way up through Central America and Mexico, but it doesn't connect with South America. However, Panama broke ties with Taiwan 2 years ago. I mean, you cannot have. I mean, you probably know what the protocols are. You can have ties with Taiwan, but not with China at the same time. So they broke with Taiwan and opened diplomatic relations with China, and the Chinese have already been here. Well, they're already here, but they did a feasibility study for a high-speed train, which initially would run from Panama City to David, where I am now, close to Costa Rica. But their bigger sort of 25-year plan is for that high-speed train to connect to Colombia and then further up, through Costa Rica, probably up to Mexico.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's what they're looking at.
It's a difficult engineering challenge because that southern or that Colombian-Panamanian border there's impenetrable, mountains and forest and stuff there, isn't there?
Yes, the Darien jungle is there, which is, it'd be similar to the Amazon. With modern technology, it's definitely doable and more doable than it was many years ago. But I have a bit of a feeling that the US and Panama's had a very close relationship with the US because the US built the canal here and they were here for the first sort of 100 years of the country. But I have a feeling the US might have said, let's not worry about connecting the rest of the They have enough traffic, as you could probably see from the news lately. They have enough traffic, immigrants and stuff, refugees arriving at their border that if the rest of South America was connected, that might. But anyway, the Chinese are here and the US are being edged out, I think.
Yeah. So how long have you been there and what brought you there? I think this is your you lived there twice, I think, haven't you? So can you tell me the story of how long you've been there in the two different times and how you came to be there in the first place?
Sure, yeah. I first came in 1994. I had been in Germany for 8 years. So I was, I left Dublin. I emigrated from Dublin in about 83, 84. I went to Germany and I was there for 8 years. And I was sort of promoted from a job in Germany to Panama. So I initially came and I did have a job. I was employed, although it was a US company. I was working in the canal zone at the time. There was still about 15,000 US troops and Panama Canal Zone employees. So the US turned the canal over to Panama December 31st, 99, and then sort of my initial sort of job fizzled out. And then I went back to Europe for 6 years, had 3 years in Germany and 3 years in Dublin. And then I came back. My wife is from here, as you mentioned. My two kids are now born here. But we came back in 2005, and obviously I knew the country better then, but I actually didn't have a job. It was going through a similar growth spurt that we had in Ireland, 10 or 15 years before, and still is. We haven't had any. I came here in 2005. We haven't had any recession. Things you could say they were booming, if you will, and they're at a more realistic sort of a pace now, but things have been very good economically the last 10, 15 years and look set to be for the next, 5 or 10 anyway. Yeah,
okay. And then your career to date, so you would have kind of started your working life in the late 80s, I guess, mid to late 80s. In sales initially, I think, here at home. Can you tell us a little bit how that progressed from there in the 80s in Dublin to where you are now and what you're up to now?
Sure. Well, I didn't work at home for very long, and I did end up getting a very good job in Germany with a US company who are a worldwide operation and still are today, and they sell US, at that time they sold US made cars, Ford, Chrysler, GM, anywhere where there was US troops in the world. So it's a big organization. There's a lot of room for growth. So I started in sales and ended up then in sales management. And then I came to Panama as a sort of a country manager for Panama, Puerto Rico and Cuba. And then after that, I've been sort of independent ever since, but that was where I did my basic sort of business learning and stuff. And since I came back in 2005, I've been independent and worked on different stuff, real estate. I'm actually really now focused on sort of agriculture and real estate.
Yeah. We mentioned that, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that kind of agri-food sector and where that's going. So the international element of your work and your business started very early on, so almost from the beginning. So you're talking more than 30 years out and about in the wider world, with a stint or two at home from time to time. So from your point of view in those different places where you've lived or where you've worked, so we've mentioned Germany, we've mentioned the US, we mentioned Panama. What kind of challenges have you come across, say, culturally, linguistically, or even technically, living and working abroad?
Okay, I think all in all, I mean, it's been a fantastic, sort of very positive experience for me, in the sense as well. Bearing in mind, I mean, when I left Ireland, we really, the internet hadn't arrived, and there was no knowledge really of a global economy. But to go from Dublin and work for a US company in Germany that, put money and effort and resources into training their people, and
because we're talking probably 1983, 84, something like that.
Later for me, like I left in 84, but traveled around for a bit. It was about 86, 87, 88 where I started to sort of take things a bit more serious and look for a way to really make some money and save some money, buy a property at home. So it was a big eye opener coming from Dublin at that time, and a great, pleasant surprise to realise, wow, not only can I get a job here, I can learn skills. These guys have a different perspective, So in a way, it was funny because although I was in Germany, I was getting sort of an American perspective on business, and also seeing how the Germans did it. So it was just a very fantastic experience. And looking back now, I'd say any time spent or any education, and as I know you studied in Spain as well, or worked in Spain. Yeah, it's a great chapter in your life. It's a whole new individual, independent chapter that you benefit from it for all of your life. I think even if you go back home or whatever you do later, it's a great experience.
Yeah, and the business initiatives you're involved in now, so you alluded there to agriculture. Can you tell us a little bit more about those projects and initiatives that are ongoing at the moment? I think you've something's not just in Panama, but also in Colombia and other areas in the region.
Yeah. Well, I suppose just before I say that, there's some Irish people here in Panama, and there's lots of Irish people now in Germany. But I suppose it's all relates on, like, for example, there's many people arrive and they already have a job, which I did at the very, very beginning when I came to Panama. So that sort of helps a lot. You have somewhere to report or work on a Monday morning, and people will have a path for you to follow, Mm-hmm. And then there's the other way. I mean, can you just arrive in a country and just start a business? So it's the whole international. I think you become internationalized in a lot of it plays into how you're arriving. Do you have a job, or do you have some capital, or do you have a fresh idea? But my experience in the last sort of 10, 14 years is Panama is very unique in the sense the country is only 100 years old. Mm-hmm. It was part of Colombia, so they celebrate independence from Spain and they celebrate independence from Colombia. And during the first year of its inception, the US had a canal running through the middle of it, which was really another country, its own entity as well. So in some ways, Panama is only 20, 25 years old. They're only just running the canal since, 2000. So there's unique opportunities there, such as when the US ran the canal. I mean, I have to say they left a great gift to the country. This, fantastic, administration and prime real estate along the canal. So they gave them a great gift. But one thing the Panamanians probably didn't benefit from during that last 100 years was skills and training, because they brought in all their own people. All the engineers, professionals were brought from the US, and the laborers were brought from Trinidad, Tobago. So Panama is like, it reminds me a bit of maybe how East Germany was when the wall came down, and West Germany in '89. There was a great celebration about, wow, we're together again, 40 years apart. Mm. But what they realized very quickly was the East Germans were 40 years behind the West Germans, and it took about 20, 25 years to reconcile that. So it's a similar thing here. So Panama's trying to catch up very quickly. So everything is being modernized, and we're like Panama's, it's in that tropical belt, so they should be producing a lot more. They should be exporting a lot more produce than they are, and in fact, they're importing, which they shouldn't be doing. And it's really because there's just been a lot of small farmers, and they haven't been modernized. So that's where we saw sort of an opening for us is we went to Spain, and Israel, and Holland, and looked at the most modern sort of hydroponic systems, and we're right in the middle of building a 1 hectare hydroponic greenhouse, which by the end of the year we should be producing strawberries.
And hydroponic means that the plants they're grown out of the soil and they are given precise doses of the nutrients and the water that they need. Is that what that refers to?
Exactly, yeah. It's soilless agriculture, and I'd only heard of it about 5 years ago, and I thought, this must be something from NASA, but I didn't realize that the Israelis and the Spanish and the Dutch have been actually going hard at it for about 30, 40 years. So they lead the way, and it's a controlled agricultural environment. So your risks are much lower, and production is much higher. I mean, the greenhouse that we have will have like 80,000 plants suspended from the roof and another 100,000 on trays. So you can grow, 8 to 10 times as much as you could normally grow in a hectare. So there's also sort of some grants and subsidies and help if you're going to do something that will modernize it. So we just saw, this gap in agriculture, but we've housing shortage here, and there's a lack. Like Panama introduced a friendly nations visa program because they need skilled people. So with people come up from Colombia, Venezuela, Nicaragua that might have skills they don't have here. So across the board, there's although it's a small country, there's opportunities.
So the potential then for business or trade or investment between Ireland and Panama. So say Irish business people, there's a big push now in Ireland to diversify, particularly with Brexit. So companies are looking for other countries to export to or to invest in. What opportunities would you see for Irish businesses looking to Latin America and maybe looking for a base? Is Panama perhaps one of the strong candidates?
Yes. I'd say it's probably the strongest candidate. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there when you said Latin America. Just to add a little bit to that, Panama is the gateway to the Americas, so to North America and to South America. We have a big duty-free zone here in Cologne. It's the second largest duty-free zone in the world, and it's a sort of a distribution point for all of Latin America. Not so much North America in every aspect, but possibly for Irish exporters. It could be a sort of a gateway into North America as well. And, that's the Chinese are sort of looking very hard at that here too. I mean, they'll have, like I said, with this new terminal, we have 5 flights a week. So I would say, that Panama's a small country in itself, but it's a gateway into the rest of the Americas.
Yeah. For example, Mexico is Ireland's largest trading partner in Latin America, and Colombia and Peru are becoming important for Irish exporters as well. But Panama strikes me as a place where Irish businesses might find it more comfortable to set up their headquarters because they have that kind of US legacy, and I think there's a lot of bilingual people there, maybe more so than in some of those other countries. Would that be fair?
Yes, 100%. There's a path to follow here. There's a proven legal system. It's a very, very safe country. I mean, I feel safer here probably than I would in Dublin or maybe certain parts of Dublin. Very, very safe. And again, because of the canal and the internationalization of Panama City, most people that even fly in here from North America, for example, when they fly in and they see the city skyline of Panama City, they're like blown away. I mean, it's like Miami or New York. didn't know or weren't aware of the country and a city in Panama in Central America that has progressed as much as it has.
Yeah, and are there Irish business networks of any sort there, or is there an expat community where you have contact with other Irish people, and maybe if people are looking for contacts or connections, that there can be somewhere to land, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I lived in Germany and I visited expat communities all over the world, and there's always that circle of trust, if you will. Irish people come in; they usually look for the Irish pub. Yeah. I don't know if they still do, but there's I would say, in the sense that there are Irish people here who will definitely be available and welcoming and point people in the right direction. But it's a very, very small community. There's not more than 10 or 15, 20 Irish people that I know here. Yeah. But they'd all be, always happy to help. Yeah. And, we're a little bit further off. I think a lot of Irish people get as far as America, and, I don't know how many get as far to Panama,
And which is our embassy that looks after Panama? Is it our embassy in Mexico, or our embassy in, I don't know if we have one in Colombia now, do we?
Mexico. Mexico is yeah. Okay. And we have a consulate here. But no, your best actually to deal direct with Mexico.
Yeah. Okay. So this agri-food sector in Panama, Costa Rica is developing rapidly, and I think you mentioned as well that not just you involved in those projects per se, but you can also help people who wish to invest in those type of projects. Is that the case? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
At certain times we do, yes. With Panama's close proximity to the US, there's a lot of interest from North America here. There's a lot of retirees, a lot of baby boomers are retiring here. As they're coming from the northwest or the northeast. It's the same trip as going to Miami or maybe to California. So, but you've also a lot of North Americans now America's sort of really to Americans, I gather, not what it used to be, and there's more people looking for diversification and looking to invest outside of America. I mean, which is just basic diversification anyway. If you're in the one currency or the one country, if you have 10 different asset classes, you're not really diversified. So we've had a lot of interest there. So there's good opportunities to invest in maybe agriculture. I would say, obviously, very, very carefully. But like the current project we're working on, we're capitalizing it ourselves at the very, very beginning. And once we're up and running and we've got production, we may invite investors in for a second greenhouse or a second phase. But that's the only way I would recommend do it. Obviously, there's a few sort of opportunities where they don't really have any skin in the game yet, or anything like that. So you'd have to be extra careful, of course. But there can and there are some investment opportunities. Okay,
it strikes me that Panama, a little bit like Ireland, has been one of the countries around the world that's been a big winner from the globalization of business and the economy over the last 30, 40 years. At the moment now, we're seeing in different parts of the world a kind of a bit of a kickback against globalization. We have Brexit, and we have protectionism in the US, and we have rising nationalism across Europe and other places. What's your own view on globalization, where it's going? Do you see it as a positive, a negative? Where do you think it's at?
It's a good question. I mean, I've thought about it. I mean, I'm one of the reasons I'm here, I think, is to be a little bit away from all that nearly Panama. It sort of harks back to, and in fact, a lot of the North Americans that come here, they like it here because it reminds me of the US in the 50s and the 60s, The state here is not, at the moment anyway, not interested in sort of controlling its people. We don't have a welfare system. If you're not working, it's because you don't want to work. So I, in all honesty, I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know where it's all going to lead, you know. But I suppose I'd say I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm just sort of keeping an eye on what I'm doing here and my side of the street, if you will. Good luck with all the rest of it. But I can only do I can only sort of take care of my own little, my family and my patch here. And I like it here because there is no government there's very low taxes and they've no interest in controlling the people. If you want to open a business, you just go ahead and open a business.
And then outside of work, what do you get up to? What do you like to do? I mean, you're living in a tropical paradise, so what kind of things do you do?
We go to the beach a lot, obviously, being Irish, sunshine is nice. So
factor 50, huh?
It's funny. Every time, even factor 80, We've 1,000 miles of Pacific Ocean, we've 800 miles of Caribbean, we've mountains. I have a young family, my daughters are 13 and 18, and I think I'm in that spell where I've just been enjoying family life and watching them grow up and go horse riding and surfing and, I just enjoy being with the family and nice balance of work and leisure here as well.
Yeah. And plans for the future then? Do you see yourself staying there long term? Do you see any changes on the horizon in terms of your home and family life as opposed to the work?
My wife lived in Dublin for 3 years as well, and I'd love to live back in Ireland at some point. But my ideal thing, and hopefully in the next sort of 3 to 5 to 10 years, what I'd love to do is spend maybe the summers at home and the winters here. When our summer actually is your winter. So not that we have a winter, we have a rainy season and a dry season.
Yeah.
So I think I'd enjoy definitely, a family and friends and good stuff. And my kids, I want to spend some time there. But I wouldn't. I'm not sort of trying to make it happen, if you will. It's just let's see what opportunities come along, and at the moment, our focus the next 3 to 5 years is agriculture, and if it's successful enough, it might allow me to spend more time at home. But I think I'll always keep a base here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's unbelievable the way the time flies. We've been talking for well over 25 minutes at this stage. So just to finish then, let listeners know, where can people find out more about you, about your business, about investment, if they want to look you up, email, website, whatever. Where can they find you?
Sure. I think the best way is my own personal information. I guess, will I give you my email here the air? Yeah, sure. It's Louis O'Connor, so LouisOconnor @protonmail.com. And any Irish people with any questions about Panama or, Central America, even Colombia, if they're looking to be, a trusted sort of a contact, I'll be happy to share, trusted contacts I have. My number here is area code for Panama is 507. My cell number is 6747-8844. And it's not likely to change. I think I've had that number for 10 years, so I'll probably have it for another 10.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Louis. It's been an absolute pleasure, and wish you the very, very best for the future. So that brings us to the end of the show for today. Anybody need to contact me on any issues that have arisen here today, you can contact me on pdaly@albalogistics.com or www.albalogistics.com. Thank you very much and goodbye.